Hello Virgo, welcome to Mama Star X channel and welcome to your reading. So this is going to be the reading for mid-month, and I am aligning this reading with the portal that we're going to be crossing on the 12th of March. So it's going to be tomorrow actually. And I encourage you, if you want to know more about codes, portals, as well as frequencies for March, to go and listen to the video that I made to talk about that, and I'm gonna leave it in the end of this video. Anyways, there's a lot of good information that help us understand some of the changes that we're moving through, as well as how these changes are affecting our emotions. Because I don't know about you guys, but lately there is so much going on emotionally. And if we're not really up to date with what is happening from an energetic perspective, we're going to be struggling. We're going to struggle. And we're going to think that, oh, it's just, me worrying about how to survive, or worrying about the type of decisions that I need to make, or the types of changes, when in reality it's more than that. Because, a lot of the experiences that we're having in the present moment are the ones that are helping us to not only make the changes that we need to make, but bringing the consciousness of why, we have been struggling with some of the things that we're struggling with. So it's quite intense. And, I would encourage you to be mindful and to take it easy, not take things at heart, because there are, March is a month of readjustment. So we're going through a major readjustment after needing to purify ourselves for a long time. And anyways, I talk about that in those videos. So Virgo, in this particular reading, one of the things that Spirit is asking me is to emphasize this concept of sacred union. And the reason being is because this approach, it happens to help you work with yourself and with your definitions and with the decisions and the actions that you're taking, in not only a more, it's not only more harmonious, or it brings more harmony to you, but it creates a magnetic field that is more expansive. Okay, and I will explain as I do this reading what I mean. So I encourage you to go and research a little bit more about why you want to find your twin soul connection. It's a definition that I don't like to use, but a lot of you relate to that. Okay, so a lot of times, we have a tendency to think that, oh, I want to find the ideal person because that person is going to understand me better and it's not going to give me the headaches that I've had before. But, finding your twin flame and being with a twin flame, you need to be at a level of awareness where you, one, have learned how to value yourself, not coming from a place of frustration or determination that I will not allow anybody to manipulate me anymore. It's like that kind of anger and hurt. No, it's about, I know that I'm divine, I'm indestructible, I know that I'm in a journey of self-discovery, and I have my own identity, I have my own creativity, and I want to express it freely, and I want to be able to find somebody who's doing the same thing, and we can make agreements on how to work together. And there are moments where we're not going to think the same way, but when that happens, I'm not going to project my insecurities and blame that person for not feeling happy. You know what I mean? So the level of responsibility that you need to have to be in a twin soul connection, it's completely different than the type of connections that you've created up to this point. So I decided to do this reading because I'm kind of a little bit bored hearing everybody like, oh, because divine masculine thinks about you, and because it's changing, and it's because it's confused, and but yeah, all that is good and dandy, and I'm not here to criticize that approach. But what is required of us while we haven't reached that level of connection? Because the work that you're doing right now, it's really important when you're trying to connect to your twin soul connection or to your twin flame. People think, oh, it's because I've had all these losers that, they were not my twin flame. But when I get my twin flame, it's all going to be roses and peaches and, I don't know, sweet. And it's not. You have to come to that relationship with a whole new level of integrity, my friend. So I'm just telling you because that's what you're being asked. That's an aspect of this reading. The other aspect is that, okay, so you've been in this journey according to spirit. The oracle says you've been in this journey for eons. But now you're at a point where you may be recognizing how some of your attitude or maybe some of your definitions are not necessarily working for you. And of course, you needed to get here to see this level of awareness, right? To have the level of awareness to understand and recognize that there's still work to be done. So whatever you're seeing now is thanks to the changes that you're making before. And this journey didn't begin in this incarnation. And the nature of your clarity, right? The level of clarity that you are getting is also dependent on the level of connections that you're creating with your soul. Because your soul journey didn't begin with this incarnation. It began way before this incarnation, right? So what you may feel as something new, or maybe you may be stuck or frustrated because you're like, you know what, since I can remember, I've been going through the same thing. To the soul, it's nothing. The question is whether your conscious mind has what it takes to surrender to the soul and allow the soul to get to the next level of evolution. So whatever obstacles you may have right now, the opportunity that you're having is that by understanding what those obstacles represent, you can transcend them. But not just you. You can also transcend a particular habit or definition that is ancestral, that your ancestors used and it didn't work. So we're going to have these epiphanies in those moments where we're realizing that, oh my goodness, I need to destroy this wall or this definition because it's no longer serving me. And as you're doing that, now you're entering into the next card, which is confronting your shadow. And it's interesting, the codes in this card, because the first card that came out was 49, the code 49, a combined number, and it's house 11, the 11th house, which is Aquarius. And that's the house that represents our expansion. Okay, the level of expansion that we can achieve. Who determines how much is you? So right now we have the opportunity to expand our consciousness, to expand our awareness. In our lives, that translate by changing your focus in a particular situation and using a different point of view. So in other words, this journey of you finding your true soulmate or your true twin soul, whatever you want to call it, it's been a long journey. But depending on where you're at right now, with the level of understanding that you have about yourself, is going to determine the frequencies that you're creating. And there's different kinds of frequencies, because this one in particularly is talking about harmony. When we harmonize what we know to what we think and how we feel. What we know, what we think, and how we feel about it. And that creates the perfect environment, if you want to call it that way, or the perfect vibration where it's going to be transmuted in great distance. So it's talking about waves instead of particles. So in other words, whatever you know or however you think about things either creates a frequency based on particles or waves. The wavelength will determine how far that information will travel, in other words. So once you start understanding yourself better and you start valuing yourself more, not from a place of fear or disappointment or trauma, right? So little by little, you start building up that confidence. You're going to be able to light up the aspects in you that are separate. And those are your wounds or your traumas. And you will have what it takes to be able to heal them. At the same time, you'll be able to recognize your shadow side and see how sometimes you create definitions that maybe are lies, sweet little lies. But those definitions were taught to you maybe by your family members, by your parents, because your family members learned them, from their parents. Like, for example, one day you're going to find your true prince or princess and you're going to live happily ever after, right? We have Hollywood that is constantly bombarding us with all of these definitions and ideas that are fairy tale stories. And I don't have anything against fairy tales, because I feel like I live in a reality that is kind of like that. But it's a fairy tale that it doesn't help, because we're a species that have amnesia and we're wounded. And right now, in this time of change, we have to heal all of that if we want to ascend and vibrate at a different level. So here you are in this journey where you're wanting to find your twin flame. And my question to you, or Spirit is asking you, well, to do what? What do you want to do with it? Do you want to create that average relationship where you've been sold this dream, the American dream? I don't have anything against it, but it's true, of having a family, having the person that loves you, having children, owning a home, owning a car, being able to have a nice lifestyle where you go whatever you want. Nothing wrong with that. But a true relationship is not based on those values. In this time of change and transformation, we're talking about divinity, our divinity. And a sacred union is not only about those things. It's about much more, because it relates to how you define and transmute the qualities of the divine, feminine and masculine, what that represents in your life, and how it is that you transmute that divinity and then attract somebody else who's willing to do the same or who's doing the same. So look up and investigate the nature of a sacred union, because it's not just about going to church and getting married. So there's something that is taking place here, and Spirit says, look, we need to find different points of views when we're moving in this journey. And if you have not succeeded in the way that you would like to right now, it's because there's more work you need to do. And the work here that is being addressed is not only the harmony between your ideas, your thoughts, and your feelings, but it's also integrating the shadow side, the shadow work, needing to look through the pain. I did this the other day where I thought, okay, I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to meditate in connecting the masculine and the feminine within me. Okay, so it's like, okay, I'm going to visualize and I'm going to unite these two energy fields. And then I thought, okay, let me work with my inner child. Holy shit. All of a sudden, when I said that, I started to talk to that inner child and hug myself. And all of a sudden, I felt this excruciating pain in my solar plex that led me into a series of experiences that it took the whole night. But it was about connecting the dots of how that pain that in the surface might have been as simple as stomach problems, stomach ache, was connected to many of the ancestral experiences of how women needed to protect themselves from the masculine, because the masculine was not there to do it. And again, this comes back to colonization and the repression of the feminine, right? The qualities of the feminine. So it's embedded in our genetic codes. And while we're here thinking, oh, I have a stomach ache or I have a headache, I need to take a pill so that it goes away, the body's saying, oh no, it's much more than that. And it took me through a rabbit hole. And those experiences are very uncomfortable, because once again, you have to be ready to show up and say, I'm here. I'm here with my body. I'm here with my inner child. I'm ready. I want to be here. And not be distracted because you don't want to feel the pain. So you either have ice cream or watch a movie. You know what I mean? Because we do a lot of things to avoid the pain. And what we don't understand in that moment is that our body is trying to expel all of those emotions. And it doesn't mean that you have to remember everything that you already know. It's more about allowing the body do the purging. And yes, you may feel the pain in that moment, and you may have awareness of how the body is connecting the different dots of how you got there. But you don't have to participate of the experience. So, in one of those moments, and again, one of the things I was told was that if I would have tried to do that before on my own, I couldn't have succeeded because it was quite intense. And, I recognize that I've been doing this work for quite some time, but there's always more. So a lot of times people say, oh, I'm okay, I've done it, there's no more. And when I hear those people, I just stay quiet, because I think, yeah, right. Sometimes we forget that how long our soul has been in this journey, right? We do. So we fool ourselves and we deceive ourselves by thinking, oh, I got this. I got it all figured out. It's all, done deal. No, not really. But anyways, so there's definitely a process that is taking place here right now, Virgo, in which at a deeper level, you are creating or have the opportunity to create this energy field in which it's kind of like, I don't know, when you see those movies when a bomb is being detonated, how initially it creates destruction, but then later it creates this energy field that it travels a great distance. So whatever you're doing right now, or whatever you decide to do right now to create this level of harmony where you're becoming more conscientious of the darkness and how you're removing all of these different layers that you need to remove now in regards to the subject of your desire, in regards to where you find yourself right now in this journey. There is an aspect of your instincts that participate in this process, your intuition, the wisdom, right? The moon, the cycles of the moon. So all of this we have to take into account. And especially with this Virgo moon. Wow, Virgo. I wouldn't be surprised if you're feeling quite intense. You know, you may become more clear about your purpose and what you need to do, because it required you to get here to find this level of clarity and do the shift that you need. And in this particular case, it's about becoming the unicorn. So confronting your shadow side comes with the code 18, which is Aries and Scorpio. The self with the transformations. The journey in this particular case is referring to transformations in your journey, right? So now we are working with intimacy in the home environment, in the family environment, as we are addressing the shadow side and removing a lot of the misconceptions that we might have used, either due to, you know, something that was taught from generation to generation, or the ones that we created. And from that perspective, now we can move into this unicorn stage, which is the place where we need to reach, because this is the card that the universe gave me that relates to the unknown, what the universe is asking you. And the universe is saying you need to become the unicorn because you have that in you. This level of purity, magical purity, which is our divinity. Now to get here in the near future, we have the 19, which is the Dragon Slayer. And this is the place, as you can see, and the card is showing, that is where all of your treasures are hidden, where your unicorn is. So this is representing many of the attitudes that you may have where you need, or you have the need to protect yourself from either the divine feminine or the divine masculine. And it doesn't matter what gender you are. Remember that. These are two qualities that we have within ourselves. And we need to reconcile these two, because right now they're at war. We've been taught to compete. The logic is better than the creative side, right? That's an example. So, you know, removing all of that and replacing it by collaboration and cooperation, because it's two qualities of the divine mind that you can't let go, that you can't ignore, at least not in this reality. So it's the same energy, but it's different characteristics. So, you know, we have to get away from this idea that men are better than women, women are better than men. And I don't care if you like the same sex or the same gender, but there's no such a thing as better. It's just two aspects that need to work together. So whatever has made you defensive, being many of these heartbreaking experiences that can also represent how your female or male behaved before you, you have to now reconcile them. And once you do that, and then you start removing all of these different layers of ice that are covering this dragon layer, which we know dragon represents a very mystical being, and usually it's kind of like the guardian. I see like the guardian of our treasures. So we have protected this place within ourselves that is pure, out of fear, disappointments, hurt, pain. And now you're in this path where you're like, you know what? I don't just want a normal relationship. I just don't want the usual relationship, because I can do all that it takes to find my own stability. I can be stable. I don't need anybody else to do it. So I want a relationship where somebody is willing to work with me at building a solid connection. Well, what is that connection about? Because it's not just about physical possessions. I mean, there's a lot of people that have physical possessions and it's not enough. So we know that now. So Spirit is saying sacred union, because there are aspects of you that are divine and they're magical and they're beautiful, just like the unicorn. But you have to become vulnerable, and you got to remove all of this stuff that you've created to hide those qualities. And here's where a lot of people say, well, but you know, I'm afraid to trust because I have trusted other people before and then they let me down. Well, I've learned that you always trust yourself first. And there are moments where you're going to align yourself to be with other people in which that moment feels right. But if a week later your inner being is saying, get the hell away, you need to be somewhere else, and then you need to trust that first. Because if somebody else is telling you, oh, come on, stick around, I want to be with you, I love you, and I want you to be here, and you're like, okay, let me ask myself, what is my divine nature telling me? And in that moment, your inner being is saying, no, you need to go. There are reasons for that. You may not see it at that moment, but you will see it later. And a lot of times what we end up is succumbing to what we're being asked. Oh, he loves me or she loves me, so I need to stay here. All right. Your inner being is saying no, but your mind is saying, oh, come on, but this feels so good. And then you realize that you stayed and all hell broke loose. But you went against your instincts. So that's what we normally do. So again, your integrity has to remain in a relationship. And all the experiences that you've had up to this point is so that you can practice how to remain true to yourself. So ask yourself, where are you at in regards to that? Because to be in a sacred union with a twin flame, you have to first find out that level of harmony and that level of peace and integrity with yourself. And so it's interesting because, here you have Aries with Scorpio talking about yourself and the transformations of the self, creating this level of intimacy and union. And then you have 19, which talks about the self with Sagittarius, our spiritual food, how we're using to, melt all this ice and expose our inner passions and our inner beauty, which comes with 45, the code 45, which is our home environment, our intimate environment with our passions. So definitely the codes are supporting all the messages that are being given here. So to close this reading, Virgo, where do you find yourself in this journey? Well, right now, the work that you need to do is, if you want to be in a sacred union, is one, do a research, investigate what that means to you, and reflect upon where you find yourself in that journey. And if you decide that that's where you're ready to be, and then start working with yourself and your inner child, and how to do either meditations or practices where you can vibrate this level of frequency so that you can call your twin flame. Your twin flame will hear the call. You know, that person that is ready to do the work, not because you tell them to do it or you force the change. It's because they're doing it already. And that's why I think anybody can be your twin flame, because it's just the person who's got the qualifications to create or to work with those frequencies, and then through magnetism the universe brings you together. All right, Virgo, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much. I wish you the best of luck. Until next time.